The unsurpassed, penetrating and perfect truth is seldom met with, even in the 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it. We can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. So today we're going to start talking about Bendowa. Sometimes Reverend Master translated it as lecture on training. Somebody else translated it as the wholehearted way, or Reverend Hubert, a discourse in doing one's utmost in practicing the way of the Buddha. He would like to use words, and to try and make really sure that he conveyed the whole meaning. Well, this is one of Reverend Master Dogen's earliest writings, as I said. First, when he came back from China, one of the first things he did was to write the rules for meditation, which we will all be reciting each afternoon. And then he wrote the Bendowa, because first he writes the rules of how to sit. He thought this is the most important thing. And then why we need to do it. It's the first chapter of the Shobogenzo, although he didn't put it in the Shobogenzo because actually Dogen didn't finish that whole huge work. But it makes a really good first chapter because it kind of lays the groundwork for a whole lot of other, all the rest of it actually. It's an explanation, as I said, of why meditation is the most important and fundamental thing we do in our practice. First paragraph. The Buddhas have a very excellent means by which they may transmit the truth. When it's transmitted from one Buddha to another, it is the embodiment of meditation, which is, of itself, utterly joyful. Well, transmitting the truth usually means the transmission between master and disciple, which is a monastic thing. However, this doesn't mean that only monks can meditate or realize the truth or pass on the teaching. Because later in the same chapter, Dogen specifically says that both monks and lay people can train and meditate. No doubt about it, no question. He specifically says this. Meditation is of itself utterly joyful. Well, it doesn't always feel that joyful. Sometimes it's hard. We can be distracted. We can be in pain, restless, uncomfortable, upset about something, or worried about something, or despondent because of all of these things. I'm having a horrible time. I can't meditate and all this. But of itself, when we can let go of all these things, meditation can be really, actually joyful. And even when it's difficult, there's something in us that actually, there's a joy there inside that knows I'm doing my best. Yes, it may be hard. I may feel I'm the worst trainee in the world. I think many of us have that feeling. And it's good to do it. And I'm going to do it. And we can do it. And this joyfulness, sometimes we feel it clearly, sometimes we don't. But we don't have to worry because it helps us anyway, no matter what we may think of our own practice. Sitting in meditation has that utterly joyful aspect to it. And Dogen goes on. Correct sitting is essential as the true gateway to entering naturally into this meditation. Well, correct sitting doesn't mean having to sit perfectly with crossed legs. Some people can sit cross-legged. Many of us can't. Reverend Master Jiyu didn't recommend it for Westerners. She thought we weren't made for it. She said, sit on a bench or in a chair, it's fine. Because she had been damaged, her back and legs had been damaged from being made to sit in full lotus position when she was in the East, so she didn't want to do that to us. So she said, it's fine to sit on a chair or a bench, no problem. I used to sit cross-legged for many years. Actually, I think it's a good position if you're not in a lot of pain. Sitting cross-legged is really nice. When it starts to be really painful, your body says, enough of this. And I had to stop. And I sort of thought I'd be really, sad about it. My knees and my hips said, thank you, thank you, thank you. And they've been grateful ever since. So it's fine. You can sit on a bench, on a chair, and so forth. Some people can't sit upright at all because of illness or other factors. And does this mean they can't meditate? No, of course it doesn't. In fact, sometimes when you're ill or we're dying, we won't be able to sit upright to meditate. But that's when we really need to focus on our practice with as much of our heart and strength as we can. Not a forcing kind of sitting, but just opening up to the practice as deeply as we can when we're ill, when we're in pain, and when we're dying. It's really, so there's no impediment. We just need to trust that, have faith in that when we've had surgery or something, we can't be sitting upright, certainly not cross-legged, but we can still meditate. Nothing prevents us. And it's always helpful to bear this in mind and not to think, I can't do it. And it's not just a matter of our personal effort, me striving. It's more that we turn our heart towards it. There's something that helps us when we open the heart to our meditation practice. It's not a matter of perfecting some technique, some ideal of correct sitting. It sounds so, correct sitting, I've got to sit correctly and I'm probably not doing it and therefore it won't work. Not like that at all. It's the attitude of mind, actually. And Dogen talks about this as he go on. The aspiration, opening the heart to our great wish, turning the heart towards the great matter, the life of Buddha, that which is greater than we are, however you want to express it. And doing the very best we can with what we have, not trying to be some perfect person. And having just sitting in the faith that our very best effort is enough. It doesn't have to be more than we can do. Doing our very best is enough. Masterji used to say all the time, all that's asked of us is that we do our best. No more is asked of us. Just do our best. Because it's not me trying to do something, or me trying to get something, or me trying to gain something, or get some experience, trying to get some special state of mind or some special experience. Because that kind of gets in the way, actually. It's more a case of getting me out of the way and letting the meditation take its course, letting it meditate us, in a sense, letting it take place, giving ourselves to it, devoting ourselves to our meditation, turning the heart towards it, as I said, giving ourselves wholeheartedly and devotedly. That's what really helps us. In faith, faith is essential to this whole practice. And it's always the case, Rav Masterji used to say over and over and over again, meditation doesn't just mean formal sitting. It takes over our whole life. So all this discussion of meditation includes our whole life. It permeates everything. To do our best to just come back to stillness in the midst of all the conditions of our lives. And this becomes clear in Dogen's writings. He's not just talking about sitting, although it sounds sometimes as though he is. It's the whole aspect of putting this meditation into practice in everything we do. Stillness, awareness, compassion, doing our best, in faith, faith above all. And as we go on, we need to keep this in mind and not forget that when he talks about meditation, he's talking about sitting practice and practice in daily life, meditating in daily life. As we washing dishes, as we go to sleep, as we clean up, all the things we do. Every living being has a great store of Buddha nature, but it can never be seen unless practice is undertaken. Nor can it be evinced in daily life unless one becomes enlightened. Now this last part can sound as though our Buddha nature, which is we all have it fine, but as though it's somehow inactive until we're enlightened. What does that mean? We have to reach enlightenment, and then when we're enlightened, we have the whole truth of Buddha, we can get going, kind of thing. But it's not like that. Because one of Dogen's most fundamental teachings that he goes on about over and over again, all through his writings, all through the Jyogergensa, training and enlightenment are one thing. They're the same thing. You cannot separate them. So, as soon as we start to meditate and practice the Dharma, no matter how imperfectly we may feel it is, we're already manifesting our innate enlightenment, which we have. We have that. And this is most encouraging, He says we all have plenty of Buddha nature. We all have a great store of Buddha nature. And we just need to undertake the practice for it to be seen. We don't have to wait for some experience of enlightenment. And on the subject of experiences of enlightenment, there can be a lot of misunderstanding about it. In some Buddhist traditions, it seems to be the goal of training. Enlightenment, Kensho, Satori, this is what you're aiming at. But in fact, lots of people have religious experiences, whether great or small, is not uncommon. All kinds of slight, little inkling of truth, or a huge opening, or anything in between. Not necessarily Buddhist, not necessarily religious people at all. It is not uncommon, and if this should happen, it's really nice. It's great. It's a helps you on your way. And the best way to understand such a thing is to see it as a gift, something given to us to help us on our way. It's probably not because we're some great virtuous being, not because of our wonderful training or anything, our great virtue, especially deserving person who has this happen. Probably not that at all. It's maybe because we really need some help on our way. And if we think we've earned something, we're missing the point. Because it's nothing to do with me deserving something or earning something. There's nothing to do with me at all, actually. Me isn't even in the picture. It's quite different from that. But what it does, any gift of insight, no matter how seeming small or how large, or whether we have them or not, I'll come back to that, it helps us on our way. It helps us to point us in the right direction. And it helps us when things get really hard. Rev Master Jiyu was a wonderful example of this. When she was in Japan, she had this first big opening, and she writes about it in The Wild White Goose. And it really helped her. She didn't get all puffed up. And in fact, it was when she said, I could be wrong, that she opened up. Up to then, she had always views about how people were behaving and how things should be, and they weren't working and it wasn't right. And then suddenly she thought, she was just leaving, and she said, I could be wrong about all this. And that really opened everything up for her. Humility. She never got puffed up about it. On the contrary, I could be wrong. She saw how much work she needed to do, and she did it. And that was just a huge help to her, and of course to all of us. And then many years later, when she was told she was dying, when she was here in the US, she did the same. She said, okay, if I'm going to die, I want to do the best job I can and just be still and clean up my act, as it were, clean up my life, do what I need to do before I die. And die do the very best job I can. And her book, How to Grow a Lotus Blossom, she wrote after all the experiences that happened as a result of this resolve. I'm going to do the very best job I can. Not I'm some great person, but I've got a lot of work to do. I want to see what I need to do, and I want to do it. And she had all these experiences, and she saw the work she needed to do, and she did it. And again, at no point was there any pride in some achievement, no sense of, I'm this great person. Absolutely not. It was, oh, I've had this wonderful gift. How may I share it with others? And so she wrote about it in How to Grow a Lotus Blossom. And she talked about it. And in fact, for quite a while after that, Reverend Master Ji would talk about enlightenment experiences, Kensho, quite a lot, because she wanted everyone to have this experience. But then after a while, she realized that people were misunderstanding, and people would attach a self to this thing. Oh, I've had this great enlightenment experience, now I am somebody, and they would misunderstand it and get puffy and proud. And she thought, so she stopped talking about it. And she found that actually not everybody had these experiences. For many people, it's more gradual, like turning up the dimmer switch, as she called it. Not some great blinding flash of illumination, but more a gradual brightening. But what she felt was really important was the training, that we train our self-concern, work on our selfishness, our I want this, I don't like that, or our pride, our arrogance, or our inadequacy. All these things can be impediments, but what really is important is not having some great experience, but doing the practice. And the Zen tradition talks about this, of sudden and gradual enlightenment. So it's quite within our tradition to have people come to truth in different ways, but we all get there in the end. So if you haven't had great enlightenment experiences, do not worry, you're in good company. And everybody's different. But what matters is that we do the training with a simple, pure and faithful heart, and not get all kind of wanting something, striving for something, trying to get something, because that just gets in the way. Training and enlightenment are one, And Dogen points to this as you go on about not clinging to enlightenment and some experience. He says, if you don't cling to it, to Buddha nature, your hand will be full of it, for it transcends both all and nothing. If you try to cling to any experience or cling to some idea of Buddha nature, if you grasp onto it, there's nothing, have this little fist, and it can't contain anything. It's just tight, and we miss the whole thing. So, on the other hand, if we open our hand, we can let it pour through, because it's not ours. Buddha nature is not ours. We partake of it, but it's not our personal possession. Training, enlightenment, we let it come, we do our best with it, we let it go through. Any kind of experience, anything we understand, anything we see, all the experiences of our lives, whether for good or not so good, we just let them go through. We can't cling on to any of it. And this is really helpful to understand and remember, because it can help us and also help beings. It's not a me helping beings. Here I am, I have this great thing. It's not like that at all. It pours through us. If you can help somebody, fine. But it's not a me trying to do it. Reverend Master was very clear about that. She helped beings all her life, but she never attached herself to any of it. And if you speak of Buddha nature, your mouth will be full of it, because its height and width are immeasurable. To speak of Buddha nature, you can't describe it because it's too huge. And none of us can say, oh yes, I understand all about Buddha nature. I see it for myself, and here's what it's like. None of us, no matter how wise we may be, has a full grasp of the whole great matter. But we point ourselves towards it, we try to open our heart to it. And if we're speaking of it, we know that it's far greater than anything we may say or anything we may know with our little mind. So it's always much bigger than we are. It's always good to remember this. It's much bigger than we are. All Buddhas dwell therein eternally, clinging to no one-sided attachment whatsoever. All living beings work therein once they have transcended one-sided attachment. We can't cling to anything. We can't cling to Buddha nature or to enlightenment or to our ideas about Buddha nature or enlightenment or our own experiences of Buddha nature or enlightenment. As I said, any experience comes and goes. It can't stay. We don't own it. We can learn from it. It can help us. But what we have left is just a memory, actually. And it can help us or it can hinder us, depending on whether we cling to it or not. If we cling to some little experience, as I said, we small it down, well, because there's a memory of it really. The whole thing is gone. It came and went. But if we open our heart and we open our hand, whatever comes our way can help us. It comes to our aid and helps us. So we can use things without clinging to them. And the more we don't cling to things, the more we can make use of all the things that come our way, because they're not ours. Everything comes and goes. Nothing stays with us forever. As Dogen says, that which I now teach shows all things within original enlightenment, expressing unity in action. Once this is thoroughly mastered, there is an end to clinging to trifles. All things are within original enlightenment, expressing unity in action. What does this mean? Everything is part of Buddha nature. We are all part of Buddha nature. Everything we do, say, think, everything we see, all our experiences are all part of Buddha nature. And the same for everybody else. Everything, no matter what it looks like. and everything works together within Buddha nature, unity in action. Well, how can we see this when there's all this suffering and disharmony in our world? We sort of think, well, that's all very well, but what about all this stuff that's going on, How can we see this unity in action, Buddha nature permeating all things? By sitting still and trusting that it is so, even if we don't see it. We don't cut ourselves off from the world and all its problems. So here I am sitting enlightened, or working on my training, and everything is just out there. We're part of the world, we're part of all the problems, we're part of everything. And yet, we can sit more deeply than that. We can sit with that and, in a sense, beneath that also. We're not cutting ourselves off, but we're not letting ourselves be thrown around by it. Trusting that which is deeper and greater than we are, than all the turmoil of our lives and our world. It's deeper than anything we can understand. Just having faith that there is something within all of it that helps. And he says, once this is thoroughly mastered, once we really know this, there is an end to clinging to trifles. When you know through and through that Buddha nature permeates everything. And when we don't know it through and through, we can trust that it is so. And we can live our lives accordingly. Buddha nature permeates everything. And we can treat people and things with respect and gentleness because they're all part of Buddha nature. We can do this. We don't have to completely understand it. We can do it right now. Treating the things we use, treating other people, treating other beings, both in our actions, in our words, and in our thoughts. The way we think of people. That judging little mind that says, especially people we don't know, oh, I can't believe they're doing that, Or even people we do know. But to see that judgmental mind and just not to let it run our life. To treat everything as it's part of Buddha nature, trusting that it is so. To live our lives accordingly. We don't have to wait for some perfect understanding, because we might be waiting a long time. We can live in this way right now. Treating everything, everybody, including ourselves, with kindness and gentleness, and trusting that it is all part of Buddha nature, whether we see it or not. An end to clinging to trifles. Clinging to trifles. We know what it's like to cling to trifles. We all do it. How much time and effort we spend in clinging to trifles, things that aren't really important. A little argument with our partner about how to load the dishwasher, It's ridiculous, but people do it all the time. Getting all stirred up about something that somebody said to us maybe many years ago and hashing it, bringing it back up and getting all steamed up about something that happened years ago. Couldn't we just let it go, Or worrying about the thing that might happen, feeling upset about something else. And just simple distraction, thinking about a book we're reading or a movie we saw or what I'm going to do later today or what I'll do tomorrow. Just all these little trifles, clinging to trifles. We do it all the time. And we don't have to make a judgment, oh my God, I'm clinging to trifles again. But to see it and to let it go over and over and over and over again, 1,000,000 times a day, as Reverend Master Daisby said. Over and over again, coming back. Oh, what am I doing? Just do the thing. Just dig the garden, just wash the dishes, just sit, do my best. And then we get distracted again, and we come back again, over and over again. And that helps to cut the roots of that clinging to trifles. It may not seem like much, but it's the basic practice, coming back to meditation, to mindfulness, stillness, and just letting go of those little things that keep pulling us away, the things we cling on to that actually are not important. When some big thing happens, we know. We just let go of all that stuff. Oh, I really love this person. I couldn't care less about the dishwasher. Are they all right, To just see that, what's really important. And it can be depressing to see how much we cling to trifles, but to see it, then we can do something. If we don't see it, we can't do anything because we don't know. But to see how we get distracted, we are not alone. It's a general human condition. It's one of the last fetters is distraction, which I find very encouraging. And seeing that can help us turn our heart towards our real aspiration. aspiration, what we really wish for. Training and enlightenment are one. We say this over and over again. Dogen says it over and over again. Training and enlightenment are inseparable. It's so helpful to keep remembering this because it's fundamental. Actually, it's one of his fundamental teachings. It comes through all his writings, and it was his great question when he started as a young monk, and when he went to China. Why is it? If we are already enlightened, why do we have to train? If we are already full of enlightenment, why do we need to train ourselves? It sounds like a funny question, but he thought, what is it? What is it? If we have this pure nature, why is it we have to train ourselves? Well, the answer is that training and enlightenment are one thing. We have to train ourselves in order to manifest our enlightenment. Otherwise, you think, well, I'm enlightened, but if we're not training ourselves, it's not going to go anywhere. We don't manifest it. We won't show it to beings or to ourselves. So we have to do the practice in order to manifest our innate enlightenment. To live from it, to let it be seen. We have to do it. Otherwise it's dormant. It doesn't mean it's not there, and sometimes it comes up, but to actually do the practice helps us to show it in our life. So we can see it, others can see it, and we still don't cling to it. Very encouraging. We don't have to wait for enlightenment to strike before we can do anything, before our training is worth anything, because we have it right here, right from the start. Our innate enlightenment, it's brought us here. We're here. We have that faith that has brought us to this point. I want to do something about myself, whether we're new to practice or been training for a long time. That humility is something I need to do. I still need to train myself. I still need to work on my selfishness, to manifest that true nature, whether I know it or not, to let it be seen. And there's not something lacking. There's not something that wise people have and we don't have it. And we can still learn from other people, whether they've been training longer than us, or whether they're people we don't even know. Animals, we can learn from everything and everybody, with that humility that Reverend Master manifested, just learning from everything, from everybody. Not saying I'm the great one, I've got it made now, I know what I'm doing, I've had this great experience. Completely defeats our purpose. But to be open to everything, everybody, treat everybody and everything with kindness and gentleness as best we can. That's our practice, Always going on, always becoming Buddha, never thinking, I'm done, I'm there, I've arrived, I don't need to train anymore. Again, this is why Reverend Master translated that last part of the Scripture of Great Wisdom in that way. Always going on, always becoming Buddha. Endless training. Well, Dogen can come across as a bit puritanical, demanding the very best of us. And he does. He asks us to do our very best. He's never namby-pamby. Oh, just do a little bit, it'll be all right. He always says, give it your best. But he's also very encouraging. He never discourages us. He never says you can't do it. He never says, unless you're enlightened, you can't train. This is why he says training and enlightenment are one. Just the very beginning of training is the manifesting of our enlightenment. It's so helpful. We never need to think, oh, my training isn't worth anything. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, when I get wise and I'll be able to, I can't help anybody. We can always do the practice, do our best, show kindness to ourselves, kindness to other beings. We can always do it. Over and over again. Training and meditation are for everybody, as he says. We can all do it.